And we're back, people. Deluded. I'm back again. Thursdays, I'm here with Jessica, aka She Knows Arsenal, or somewhat knows Arsenal. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Obviously, we've got Madueke through the door. We have to talk about the striker, the Rodrygo stuff and all sorts, man. But apart from that, I'm all right. Next week, we're going to see our team in action, man.
Already.
Yeah. And then it kicks off against Man United in a couple weeks beyond that. And then we're there.
Whoa. How quickly did this go? I thought it was going to, I don't know. I guess the summer always kind of goes by a little bit fast. But yeah, I don't know if I feel like I'm ready to get back into the swing of things with Arsenal.
Why?
Last season was just a lot, I felt. So, yeah, maybe once I see the players through the door, especially Gyokeres, because whatever's going on with him is taking way too long, then maybe I'll be more excited. But like right now, it's like,
are you nervous about this Gyokeres thing? I think it's done personally. Apparently, his agents are in London. Why is it taking so long, in your opinion?
Because we're always haggling off after the last cent. It's just, I feel like the Declan Rice one was kind of similar as well, where they agreed the overall fee, and then Ornstein was like, hold your horses. They still need to do the fine details. And then whatever those fine details were, it took like 2 weeks. So I feel like it's kind of similar, but, Sporting or want that every single one of those add-ons to be super achievable. And we want them to be less achievable. And I'm just like, is there no way that you guys can just come to like a swift, like middle point? It just feels like both people are like, and it's like, can we just get it done now? We start preseason, or we're supposed to leave on Saturday. The guy's it's not even done yet. We're not even waiting on an announcement. That's going to take a million years. So yeah, it takes all of the, like, I know this is not what Arsenal don't give a shit about how we feel. That for sure, because they wouldn't do half the stuff they do if they did care. But it sucks the life out of every single transfer when you have to wait so long. Can't lie, so. But it's not about the buzz and the vibes, is it? So, I mean, how do you feel? You're not worried about it at all then?
I'm not worried. Obviously, like yourself, I don't work for Arsenal. I'm not with I'm not a transfer man and whatnot. But when I'm just hearing around bonuses, like, I just think it's going to be done. Like, obviously, Sporting want to save face and drive a hard bargain. We want to pay whatever we want to pay. Me and you spoke last week, and everybody's well aware of what Gyokeres has done to make this move happen. And if you're haggling over, I mean, it's some say 2.5 million, some say 5 million, some say 10 million. You've done the bulk of the business in it. So the main I's and T's that need to be crossed about deals, about the deal and everything, it's going to get over the line. It's just, I know these things, we say these things take time, and we love a dragged out process, but I'm relatively fine now. Obviously, we haven't seen it confirmed by like Romano and people of that ilk, but this article is saying that Arsenal are anticipating a breakthrough. Gyokeres' medical has been scheduled in London this weekend. I know we would have hoped for it to have been done by now, so he's ready. He's jetting off with the boys to Singapore. But as we've seen with Smith Rowe last year, coming from America to go sign for Fulham, Madueke this year, you can just leave. You can forward over there, innit? It's not really that deep to me, but until it's over the line, I'm not sure. And then obviously you would have seen the Sporting people made their voices held with the banners and whatnot. You would have definitely seen Arsenal fans doing that thing they do where they start tracking flights and looking around this house about moving details. So surely it's done. I wanted to ask you as well, Jess, like, Arsenal wrong to be haggling about bonuses, whether it's 5, 2, 10 million, that kind of fee? Are they wrong in your opinion? Because some would say just pay the money and keep moving.
Not necessarily. I feel like, I kind of, maybe it does sound like I'm on the fence about this. Like, of course, I'd love for us to just pay the money, but understanding how Arsenal operates, you guys know that, like, we always have a very tight budget, and it always comes down to the pennies in the sense. Like, it really is not, we're not the type that can just pay extra. If you pay a little bit extra on Gyokeres and Mascara and so and so and so and so, then that's going to add up to us maybe not being able to do something else. And Arsenal 100% still need to be active in this window. What they've done up to this point is nice, but it's not enough, so I think from that, I feel like the problem with haggling is not that I'm mad at Berta or anybody else for haggling down to the cent. It's more of like the Cronkies don't, I guess I wish the Cronkies made it easier on us by maybe seeing that we're struggling and give a little bit extra, but they don't do that. They're like, here's your 100 million, do with what you can with that. And that's why we have to like go to Real Sociedad and, take all the time and try to get the installments for the release clause, or down to the penny, so I don't really think I don't blame anybody that's trying to make the deal get over the line. It's more of like, I wish we had the type of owners that were a little bit more like, we're going to make sure you have the money for that release clause. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just I don't want to say you're alluding to ambition, but indirectly alluding to ambition. Like when
Yeah.
just give us a little more to just get over the line, so we don't quite continue to see these dragged out processes. That being said, though, it's not that I agree with it. We spoke
Mm.
about it last week. When you strip everything back, and obviously Berta's got fantastic experience as working at Atletico Madrid. He comes from a financial background. Now, whether people want to blame whatever, there is elements to balance the books of some ilk, really, to move people on, to get the wages done. So I can understand why there's a bit of penny pinching. And like you quite rightly said, it might be 2, 5, 10 million to us, but that could have ramifications for everything else. You did mention something, though. You mentioned it's not enough. What do you mean by that?
I mean, they've done a lot of business, but a lot of the stuff that they've done are not the main things that are going to make or break our season, I feel. Like, of course, you needed to get Norgard in. That was like you have to do that. You have to bring in a backup DM. Got that. You have to replace Jorginho. You need a backup goalkeeper. That's 2 of the signings. We knew Zubamendi was coming in, but that's a great signing. That's probably the one level raiser through the door so far.
Exactly.
Gyokeres is one of the 2 attackers that we needed. We still need another one. I get that they're trying to do the Madueke is going to be in the next 3 years. I'm really not trying to hear that. You just needed a level raiser left wing. That was all you needed to do. You didn't need to, whatever you're trying to do with Madueke is a choice that didn't need to be made. So in my opinion, they still need to go out and get another level raising attacker because he's not one. He's just an extra, so whether that's Eze, which I don't know if we have the money for. We've been kind of preparing to approach Crystal Palace for like 2 weeks now. But whether it's Eze or whatever, you got to get somebody else in there. It's not enough. Am I wrong for feeling that way, or am I being greedy now? I don't feel like,
Probably
I'm
both, but we
greedy.
deserve to be greedy, man. We've been starved, and I
Yeah,
share your sentiment, man. Like when it's all said and done, and you strip everything back, we're at where we're at with Madueke. I can understand the concerns. I can understand the concerns about spending 50 million on him. I can understand, even if you're not vexed about the 50 million in that, that looks like the going rate. I can understand why people think, you know what, it's another one shopping in Chelsea's bin. It's 50 million on potential. Potential don't mean nothing unless it's realized. And
yeah,
I think if we was in a scenario where maybe we won some titles already, or we had these game changers, I wouldn't say people would agree with it, but they might say, you know what, Madueke, do what you want to do under Mikel Arteta. Essentially, we don't know. We don't know if he's going to be a backup for Bukayo Saka. We hear he's going to be the left winger. I personally, there's no way on God's green earth he could have been told he's just going to be a backup player because he's an
exactly.
England international and whatnot. But then
100.
based on what we're saying, then just I remember this tweet, or better yet, what Ornstein said way before all of this kicked off. Yeah, and like, does it give you any food for thought based on what you said? People forget what Ornstein actually said about our targets. A left winger is highly admired, but only with a Martinelli sell. We'd go for Rodrygo/Gordon. Madueke is a Saka backup that can also play, left wing, essentially a third winger. He's not an alternative to Rodrygo. It's a different signing.
Yeah, it's at the beginning of the window when he was saying these things. That's why, I was on the timeline and I was like, it's not even certain that we're going to get a left wing. And I was getting chopped up for it. Literally, like people wanted my head on the guillotine because I was like, well, it's not confirmed that we're getting a left wing. What do you mean? They said we're getting a left wing. I'm like, are you not hearing what they're saying? Read between the lines. Like that's actually incredibly clear. But I feel like there's always been a gray area around left wing and that there may need to be a sale. Should it be that way? No, I feel like We shouldn't be in a situation all the time where it's one in, one out. That's usually our situation. It's so hard for us to build a strong squad when it's like one in, one out. You know, somebody has to go for somebody else to come in. It's I don't know, but we needed a level raiser left wing, I feel. Whatever's on the left, whether it's Trossard or Martinelli, just feels insufficient. And adding Madueke to it just further adds to the insufficiency. It's just different, but is it better? You know, so yeah, I think Arsenal are playing a very risky game going into what looks like to be an all-timer season with everybody kind of improving their squad significantly. And Arsenal, I felt like, were already behind with their attack, and they're not really they don't seem desperate to catch up. They seem very like, well, we'll just add one little piece in there. It should be fine. But, oh, we're going to spend 50 million on a project. Like, it's just not in terms of age project, but like, you know, Arteta's thinking that he can make Madueke into something special.
Some proven potential.
Yeah, I'm
or
like,
unrealized
why would you
potential.
do that? That doesn't make sense. And so they need to get Eze. I feel like that's the only way that people will feel okay with the window. And I know that they're not meant to be doing things for us, but Arteta is going to be on game 2 or 3 in a press conference talking about how we need to back Madueke and we need to hear the fans. But if you stop buying Chelsea players and just buy good players that we need, you won't have to beg for support. Like, so just get Eze and just close out the window.
Fair.
This is yeah, to me, this is where, you know, Arsenal need to be so freaking for real right now. If they think Gyökeres and Madueke is taking us over the line and a buff Havertz, wrap it up. Wrap it the fuck up right now. Stop playing them up. Don't piss me off. Like, is that enough for you? Do you think we're going to be coming home with the trophies then?
No, man, because honestly, I feel like Madueke, you have all my support. I don't think you're a terrible footballer. I don't think you're like an amazing footballer. I don't think you're as bad as the uproar suggests. Obviously, a bit of that is probably down to Madueke as a player, down to the 50 million, the fact that we're going for Chelsea players, the fact that he's not exactly a level raiser, and also what you've touched on. For me, I don't feel we've got bad attackers or attacking options, but there's very few players I can bet on. I look at our defensive unit, even down to someone like Zinchenko, who I don't rate, and I know he can't defend. I kind of know what I'm getting. It wouldn't surprise me if, you know, the Trossards, the Martinellis, he ain't kicked the ball for us, but Madueke, Merino up front, or Havertz, if they had strong goal scoring seasons, but by the same breath, it wouldn't surprise me if they did. It wouldn't surprise me if they didn't. I feel it's too much random business, and I wanted some level raises is one thing, and we needed sure bets. I hope Gyökeres is obviously that, so that's the second one. We know what Saka brings to the table. So then it's all, if Madueke does play off the left as much as he plays off the right, because realistically, God forbid, but unless there's an injury to Saka, or you wake up and you're twice the ability of Saka, you're not going to play off that right-hand side more often than not. You're going to either be a rotationary option or a left winger. And I actually think we've betted on him to be the left winger, to which I ask you, obviously in hindsight, we hope it works. If you've got, and you touched on Havertz, I want to ask you about Havertz as well. If you've got Madueke, this is just purely off the left wing, right? You've got Madueke, you've got Martinelli, you've got Trossard, you've got Gabriel Jesus. Who's the strongest option if everybody's fit for you?
Oh my God.
There's 4 players for one position. It does appear that there's depth, but who's the guy?
You want me to choose between that? Really?
Yeah, because for me, I'll help you by offering my thoughts. On paper, right now, I'm inclined to believe it's still Martinelli. I could flip that and say Madueke because you were signed for a lot of money. I fit Jesus. I think you're probably the stronger option of them all, but as we know, Jesus' days are numbered. So that's my thinking. That's what I wanted to ask you.
I mean, like I told you a couple days ago, I feel like I told you this last week. You're basically asking me would I rather be like hit by a bus or pushed off a cliff. Like, come on. You know, it's like they're different, but is any of it really better? I guess I would say Martinelli's the only player that's had like an elite season in that position. So it would probably be Martinelli. But I mean, we're really choosing between nothing really. You know, like, I don't know. Maybe Jesus, in theory, is the best. He's the best player out of the 4. You said 4, right?
Yeah, Martinelli, Trossard, Madueke, Jesus. Yeah,
Jesus is the best player, the most talented player out of the 4. But I've never really seen him play left wing for Arsenal, so can't really say him. So I would say Martinelli. But I went into this window feeling like we needed to improve upon Martinelli. But Arsenal are really comfortable with what they have up front. I just know that they are.
I wouldn't rule out Madueke playing a false nine at some point as well to look at this comment. I wouldn't rule that out. I think he's got the capacity to do it, if I'm honest. I don't want to see it though.
Yeah, it's taking everything in my power to try to get behind this signing, because I just think it's such a sideways move for Arsenal. There's always a big sideways move in every window where it's like, do they make us better? Or they just make us different. I think he makes us different, but that's about it. He needs a lot of work, and Arteta needs to focus on the job. His job is to win major trophies. He doesn't need somebody that, he's not at Brighton or Brentford where, you just need to improve these players, and get as much as you can out of the season. Why you choose to be so desperate for a project in a time where and here's the thing about like Madueke is that he's going to need sprucing up to be good enough to start on the left wing and feel like upgrade, but the expectation is that he's going to need to hit the ground running. And I don't think that he can have a first half of the season like Havertz did. He is so much less tolerated than Havertz was. And I do find that to be a little crazy because
Why do you think that is?
Well, I talked about this on my channel, but I was like, it could be that we've already done this with Havertz, so we're tired. Could be that another failed season. It could be a little bit of the underbelly. I don't know, but I just am like, that you you didn't draw the line at Havertz, but you're drawing the line here at Nani.
How about got a song early?
Oddly enough, I don't know how you feel. I think it might be an unpopular opinion, but I actually think Nani is a better footballer than Kai Havertz. I do. I think he's better. Sorry. So
both kind of meaty. To be fair, I think Havertz is probably more intelligent, but in terms of what, like, if we strip it back and you throw them both for football, I'd rather watch Madueke. I think Madueke could help us on the transition. He can stretch size. He looks to take people on. Of course, I can caveat that with I say all of that around Martinelli. Half the time, the games are close. There's not much space and all of that. As you've been alluding to, at the end of the day, Arteta's going to have to make this work. Potential is one thing. He has to realize it. He's 23. He's coming into his own. That's great for him. But under the backdrop of us needing to deliver, and you've committed 50 million to one player right now where we can't see as a level raiser, I'd say the good news and the bad news with Madueke right now, and I hope in hindsight we can sit here and say that's why he's managing and we're here. You fit in. Like, you fit in with these attacking players. You're not bad. Right. You're a bit of a mixed bag. We don't know what we're going to get. It's not really a level raiser. And then you factor in what me and you have been vocal about, in that there's a lot of tactical things, penetrating central areas, moving the ball quicker, being less lopsided and all of that kind of stuff. You touched on Havertz. What do you think gyokeres' signing means for Havertz? Like, do you think Havertz's role's diminished? Do you think there's reality they both play together? Where are you at with that? Because people are getting excited because he's getting wham.
Now I feel like you, and like I'm just like, are you sexually attracted to him or what? I mean, who gives a shit if he's getting bulked up? That's not gonna help his touch. Like, who gives a shit? Yeah, I don't know. I think his role is gonna be starting at the beginning of the season because Arteta's obsessed with him. But I think with Gyokeres
through the middle, or
up top. But I do think that having Gyokeres over Sesko means that there is going to be more pressure for him to come in. I don't think that he's going to have this rotational role that people are talking about, because I think he's going to force himself into that starting role. And once it's clear that he's clear of Havertz, it's just going to be what it is. I think he's clear already, but I can see Arteta using this whole like adaptation and all that to kind of placate Havertz a little bit. Benz to placate.
No, he's not a fan of that.
I know, to placate Havertz a little bit, and like Havertz is Arteta's project, and he's forced him upon us, and I don't think he wants to let go and say that it didn't work. So at the beginning of the season, it'll be like this faux, we need to let Gyokeres get up to speed. But once Gyokeres plays, a little bit, I think it's gonna be a wrap. I think it's a wrap. Like I do, because you're not gonna be able to drop him. And I think he's determined. Unlike Sesko, that was a little bit put off by the idea of having to fight for a spot. I think Gyökeres is looking at Havertz and he's like, yeah, I'm not, I'm the guy, but I mean, are they going to play together? Maybe if we need a goal or something, but I just don't see a world where we're going to move away from playing this 3 in midfield to make a second striker situation. Like, I don't know. It feels like
Odegaard would have to come out of the role.
Yeah, and I just don't see. I know in like theory, people are like, yeah, but if Havertz is flicking it on to Gyökeres or whatever, but I'm like, there's just no creativity there. What are we doing? I feel like that's something that you do when you need a goal. I don't think that's how you want to start a game. So ultimately, I'm thinking he'll be on the bench, but knowing Mikel, he'll try to placate Havertz just a little bit. I don't know. What do you think about it? Do you think that it's an instant like Gyökeres comes in and starts starting, or do you think he's going to ease him in?
I think Arteta's going to have to ask himself a hard question. And like, obviously, Arteta's not an idiot, isn't it? Like, you look at where we are now to where we was before. There was a point Tini was playing, the system left him. Tomiyasu was one of the first names on the team sheet. He got eclipsed. We've seen it with Ramsdale. We've seen him make those difficult decisions before, or the kind of sink or swim thing. That surely is going to meet Havertz. Now, I think Havertz can contribute in the squad, but obviously in an ideal world, Subamendi's playing out of this world. Reiss is doing his thing. Wanjeri and Odegaard are cooking. Gyökeres makes himself undroppable. Beyond being a squad player, your role's diminished. And then I do think within the next 18 months, there might be, an Odegaard, a Martinelli, a Kai Havertz, a Gabriel Jesus, all of various denominations. But one of these guys, if not all of them, are probably going to be moved on. And I do think Havertz has to be one that everybody at the club is thinking about, because he's on big wages, clearly a good squad player, but we might have to leave him. I believe what you're saying, if I'm honest. I think whether we got Gyökeres or Sesko, Havertz would have started this season. I want to see Gyökeres start. I just want to see Gyökeres start. The man's bullish. Just get it happening. The man's lit. Let's just go back to basics.
I hate to cut you off, but I just need to I need to say this. Do you understand how disgusting it's going to be when Havertz misses his first sitter and Gyökeres is on the bench? This is what I'm saying. Arteta needs to just put the pride down. Seriously. Like, we're tired, at this stage. So you could give the gimmick about trying to ease him in, but ultimately I feel like if Gyökeres is done in the next 2-3 days and he starts preseason, there's no reason why he should be on the bench in these big games that we need to play. Because I'll tell you one thing for free, that Havertz, as much as he's improved from what he was when he first got here, he's still not the type of player that I trust to score against Man City, against Newcastle, teams like that. And I know he scored a goal, the fourth goal in the route, but as a rule of thumb, that's not his bag. And so him missing chances in big games at the beginning of the season is signing Mikel's death warrant. I really think he needs to think and be like, is it more important to keep Kai Havertz in this team and to do the gimmick?
Saka, Havertz, Madueke frontline, Arteta.
Yeah, do you want to do that? Or do you want to give yourself the best possible chance of winning those initial games? Because we have a hard start to the season, so it's not like you can ease in. I don't really think he has a choice, but I think he'll still do it because he's hard-headed. But like I said, that's on him. That's on him. That first missed chance and Gyökeres, and they pan to Gyökeres on the bench.
Boy, no, he has to hold that, but he really has to hold that because he's making his own decisions. It's an active choice to have Gyökeres on the bench instead of Havertz. And I understand you want to keep things the same. It's an active choice to have Madueke start ahead of what you could potentially bring in. Like, you're going to have to kind of hold that. And at some point, you're going to have to ask yourself a serious question, Mikel Arteta. And the reason I want to see Gyökeres start beyond the obvious is he's hungry. It's a striker. I feel we've reinvented the wheel a lot now. Let's just go back to basics. And obviously, the one thing Gyökeres doesn't have is, I don't think Gyökeres' general play is bad. I actually think it's quite good. I don't think it's to Kai Havertz, to Marino, to Jesus, like everything beyond goal scoring that Arteta demands. But that's why I want Gyökeres to start. Gyökeres can meet him halfway. It's like Pep and Haaland. Like, he can do that, maybe not to their level, but put him in positions where he's going to score goals. That will demand Arteta, I guess, to change things sooner rather than later. We've all been talking about we've all been talking about how we all want to see different things and whatnot. He knows the system, but the system's become predictable, and you can know the system until you're blue in the
that
face.
we want to double down on, by the way. It's like, yeah, but he knows the system and the way
the system needs to change.
Done is not exactly, it's not something we need to be doubling down on. It did not really work that well. And I see, like Jaden's saying, because the camera will pan straight to Gyökeres on the bench. What happened when Raya?
Yeah. You know they'll do that.
Straight to Ramsdale, did they not? Do you guys not remember that? If there's somebody, if there's a narrative out there, even the most professional of media outlets will go down to that level. And we saw it with Ramsdale versus Raya. So absolutely, Havertz misses a sitter. The first thing that they're going to do is pan over to Gyökeres.
And it's not fair for Gyökeres, Havertz, or anyone, man. Like, it's kind of moist, really. I still think there's a role for Havertz. It'll be keen to see how that kind of plays out and things of that. But I more want to see you as a squad player. There's obviously games you could start. There's some Arsenal fans that are of this weird belief, and fair enough, I hold my hands up, but this weird belief that Gyökeres is going to be the secondary option. We spent 60 odd million on a 27-year-old with no resale value, all of that. The way he talks, he's coming to take someone's spot, and that should be what's needed, man. Like, there's no time for sentiment. If he knows the system, know the system. Like, Gyökeres is an intelligent footballer. You could do that. I wanted to ask you as well, yeah. What does Gyökeres mean for any left winger, whether that's Madueke? I'm more geared that question towards Martinelli because he does pull out to the left. Personally, I'm past the point of, I know it's not without claim, but you need a left back, you need this in midfield, you need that. The only thing I would say is we are lopsided in it, and I think that's another thing for Arteta to fix. We need to look like a threat down both sides. But what do you think that Gyökeres peeling to the left-hand side means potentially for Martinelli or left winger?
I mean, it could help him. I think when you look at Havertz's shot heat map, it's definitely very much so geared towards the right, which is why I think Havertz and Saka have a good relationship because they get closer to each other. But the left wing needs a lot more support than the right. And over the last 2 seasons, it hasn't really gotten that. And so Martinelli's been on a little bit of he's gotten on a little bit of an island there. So I think potentially it could help him. But at the end of the day, I think it has a lot to do with what happens in midfield as well. Because it wasn't just that, Jesus was peeling out to the left when Martinelli was playing well and he was coming central. It was just even the midfield was so much more, so much more balanced. And the whole front six, I want to call it a front six, but maybe front five, was so much more connected and switching and playing close together. So it could help him, but nothing will help anybody if we don't play the passes into them early. Nothing will change if we're still missing wide open chances, So it can help him, but I don't want to bank on it just yet because we've said this before. Marino is going to unlock him. Now Gyökeres is going to unlock him, Oh, this guy here.
Chill out. Don't get onto that yet. We're gonna get onto that. But Big Dripper said Havertz knows the system. And before I let Jess offer her reports, you should know the system. You've been here long enough. Havertz is an intelligent individual. I just want to know, because I can see a couple of comments. I'm gonna bring them up. Ramsdale knows the system. Why buy David Raya? Zinchenko knows the system. Why buy all the left backs that we bought? Gabriel Jesus, Mikel Merino, Kai Havertz all know the system. Why buy another striker? Martinelli and Trossard know the system. Why buy a left winger? But he said Havertz knows the system. What if he does? What if he don't miss the chance? And then he went on to say, and if Saka misses a chance, are you going to have the same energy? Now, before I let Jess offer her thoughts, I'm just going to say, come on, stop being silly. Every footballer misses a bag of chances. Clearly, Saka scores a lot more than he misses. I'm not saying to create a pylon for Kai Havertz, but the man isn't as clinical. Haaland, Salah, all of these guys, like a lot of footballers, are up there for big chance missed, but they score a lot more. But what do you say to that? Because I don't know if he's trolling or he's being a Quartarian or just intentionally dense.
This is what's happened. It's now that we have this player and there's like this desperation to defend the signing, they bring down everybody else so much so that now they're bringing down Saka, they're bringing Martinelli, they're bringing Odegaard, and they're like, every time they make a mistake, it's like, well, why don't you guys beat down on them the way? Because these players have had, we have so much, they have so much more credit in the bank than
That's just
Havertz.
how the life of the world
Yeah,
works,
it's like, of
unfortunately.
course, so at the end of the day, I feel like we have lowered our standards so much for Havertz that now it's like I'm in a different universe where now he's somehow underrated, and I'm like, he's not underrated. He's,
There's no
he's
balance. There's no balance
yeah,
with
he's
Kai
not
Havertz.
underrated.
He's either mad shit to some, or he's the best thing since sliced
Yeah,
bread. And we talk about being ruthless, but there's a reluctance to diminish his
yeah,
role. Unfortunately, like he's a
yeah.
good
I
player,
think,
but even mad.
yeah, and this whole like, well, why can't they just play together? I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I think there's just less reason to drop your captain, drop your marquee signing, or drop, Zubamendi or anyone, or give Havertz minutes that Ethan could have. Or if you get Eze, not play him instead of Havertz, just to shoehorn him into the team. He's just needs to be a squad player. It's just that simple. I just don't understand why we're trying to force the narrative. I don't get it. I guess I'm living on a different universe because every time I hear Havertz conversations and people are trying to convince that he's something better than what he is, it's just like, are we not all watching the same thing? He's not as bad as he was when he first started, but he's basically serviceable. And that's how I view him. He's somebody
Exactly.
that is serviceable in midfield. He's serviceable at center forward. But ultimately, we know we need upgrades in both positions. Hence, Gyökeres and Eze. So why are we? I don't get it. We're not looking for upgrades at right wing. They're shy about getting a left wing upgrade. Ethan is the backup to Odegaard. I think things are kind of telling you that even the club sense that even as good as Havertz has done, he's not enough.
And it's not fair to Havertz. What I will say to Havertz, and this is what I mean about there's no in between. In that I like Havertz. I don't think he's pretty on the ball, but considering where we're at, I think you're intelligent. I think you know the system. I think you're a fighter. I actually feel, as much as I describe you as missing chances and not being clinical, since you've been here, and more so since you played up front, excluding Bukayo Saka, you've pulled your weight in that attacking rank. So there is a use for you. Unfortunately, when we look at our defensive unit, we know how many clean sheets we're going to get. We know the level of expectation from all of them. Bit different now with Norgard and Zubamendi coming in, but obviously you know what you're getting from Reiss and all of these guys. It's where you look at the attacking unit, they're not bad players. Some of them can be squad players and they all can chip in. And last season we saw why we needed a squad. Unfortunately, you don't know what you're getting. If your name's not Bukayo Saka and I guess Gyökeres, it wouldn't surprise me if Trossard, if Martinelli, if Madueke, if Merino, if he goes up front, if they have strong goal season returning campaigns. But also wouldn't surprise me if they did, but also wouldn't surprise me if they didn't. I need to have players we can bet on. And I think that's just the cold-hearted truth. Don't get twisted, if Kai starts and he's playing well and he's bagging week in, week out, you can't be dropped. Or Arteta might have to be little cute and clever and tweak the system and play him in midfield and whatnot. But that is an evident area. We look at the strongest 11 last season and we forget that Merino could play up front and we slap Kai Havertz up there. There's two areas you want to improve at the very minimum in the attacking rank. It's left wing and up front. Unfortunately, this is the nature of the business. It doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. It really don't.
Yeah, exactly. And we've seen that both Havertz and Merino can be, again, serviceable at center forward for us. And so I don't know why the desperation is not to get somebody better in, but to persist with somebody just because it's kind of working. I just feel like we should want more for ourselves. I want you guys to love yourselves more. I really do. You deserve more in life. But he's going to play games. Obviously, there's so many games to play. So it's not like it's the last time we'll ever see him or anything like that. And I do think Arteta will persist with him longer than any other manager would. Ultimately, you're just not going to be able to have Gyökeres on the bench for long. I just think realistically, this idea that he's just going to play an Eddie Nketiah role is disingenuous. Because also you have to think about the amount of times that Gabriel Jesus, even though he's not the best finisher, anytime that he was fit, he went straight into the 11. So it's like, if you could do that with Jesus, just do it with Gyökeres. Why not?
And then you're asking Gyökeres to get bare goals and whatnot, but then you're going to have him in the periphery. It don't make sense. I want the best of both of us. There might be a time where Gyökeres is on the bench and we're using what we've come to expect. Equally, what I do think you have to see is a change of system. I guess what everybody needs to stop getting pigeonholed into one way of thinking. Of course, we're going to have our distinctive way of playing, but as we've shown last season, we need to be less predictable. We need to have better tactics in game,
Yep.
and this is what these players provide us with. Lionheart, appreciate you for the super chat. If we don't get Eze, I won't be happy knowing we chose Noni Madueke over Rodrygo. Could have used that money for him. What would you make if that is the case? Before we get into this Rodrygo stuff.
Well, this is what Arsenal have set themselves up for, which is why there was such a big uproar about Nani. All of it wasn't just about who he is as a player. I think it is the idea that
Knock-on
we've
effect.
seen this story before. You spend too much somewhere else that's not as important or not, it's just a sideways move, and then you need to sell to buy to do the other stuff that's more important or more impactful, and then you can't do it. And then, oh, by the way, we give a rival money so that they can improve their team. And so the direct knock-on effect of bringing in Nani and not, going for Eze first is that now we don't have the money, or now we need to sell or do something in order to bring in Eze. But now the team that you gave money to for Nani is now also interested in Eze. So now we've created a situation where of the narrative is going to be, no matter how Arsenal try to spin it, or, Charles Watts or any of these guys come out and try to pull the veil over, Arsenal fans are going to feel like we gave Chelsea money to go get a person that we should be getting. And in the end of the day, they have to hold that if that's the situation. We've only bought 2 attackers in this window, and one of them is not even a clear upgrade. Everybody else has improved their team so much. I don't understand why it's so hard for Arsenal to improve their attack. It feels like pulling teeth. And I get this young man, he deserves time and all that kind of stuff, and he'll definitely get that from me. But I will not blame Arsenal fans for feeling disappointed if he ends up going Chelsea and this is the only person that we end up getting, because we don't have the money. It's frustrating.
And that's my biggest fear. So that leads me to believe, obviously, I hope we get Eze, but for all the Eze, Rodrygo, and all these guys, if you do end up with just Gyökeres and Madueke as your attacking additions, did you really plan on bringing in other players? Did you really think even throwing in Nico Williams, who signed a new deal, was feasible? And then you kind of touched on it, but then what do you think of specifically when you see this from Charles Watts? Arsenal are very happy with the fee paid for Noni Madueke and are adamant that it will be seen as excellent business in a few years' time. Mikel Arteta really pushed for the deal, believing he can thrive at Arsenal, and crucially, does not view him as backup.
Well, so many people are quiet now because like I said, all the people that were screaming at Arsenal fans for being like, of course he's not a backup, now look incredibly silly now. And it's like, it was obvious that he wasn't a backup. I remember we've talked about that. It's like, it just doesn't feel like a backup. It really doesn't. And I think I said at the time that it would be either Ornstein or Gunner Blog or one of these that comes out and right after the signing is done, be honest about what it is. They all the way up until they said backup. And then as soon as they got it done, it's like, actually, he's not a backup. And Arsenal love what they're doing, and they're going to make him into something special. And they believe blah, blah, blah. No, baby.
In a few years, that tells me there isn't pressure necessarily to deliver, if I'm honest with you, this year.
And I'm like, I get it. If you want to bring in a player that has huge upside and you have to coach up, you should do that. I have no problem with that. But can it please be a player that does not have the Chelsea smell on them? Why is it always this club? Why? Always. Your projects always come from there. And I just don't get that.
Kind of predictable in that regards.
Yeah. And by the way, which one of these has ever gone well? I'm just trying to figure out, where is this coming from? I mean, how do you feel about it? Do you think that there's any possibility that he can, because people are saying he's the Rafinha Sane, whatever. Is there any way that he can become that? Or where do you think that, what's the level of the talent here? I can't really decipher it, because whenever I watch him play, I feel like he's tackling himself. There's clearly a raw talent there, but can he be on Saka's level? Because that's what we need. No?
Saka, no. Worst comes to worst, I think you're someone that if it all work well, do you know what? The first thing I would say is Arteta, you need to show me. You need to show all us fans. And I think I speak for everybody here, Jess included, where we're not slagging off the player. We don't think he's rubbish. It is what it is. You sign for
Mm,
Arsenal, you'll be supported and praised and critiqued fairly. Arteta, you need to show why we're just fans and you're the manager, if I'm honest with you. I do think you're a good dribbler. I don't think you're pretty at all, but I think you can cover distance. I think you can grab. I think you can counter attack and whatnot. I think you can open up space. Whether we're a team that plays like that's another thing. I do think you get into good areas. I am concerned with the stuff, and I don't want to do the underbelly thing, but I do understand the concerns about the attitude and all of that because there
mm,
has been rumblings with Pochettino before, and obviously Mascara. But I will give him that luxury in that maybe in a new environment the penny can drop. Fair enough. If you're 23 now and you was in your early 20s, you might not have seen what the real world's about. Like, for instance, you might be dropped and you might see it personal. As you get older, you might see it might not have anything to do with you. I can't see how it cuts out on a consistent basis on the left
yeah.
wing. Maybe actually having a left footer on the left wing crossing and whatnot could be good. I just see it as maybe someone that's a reliable rotation option at best that could get us double figures. I don't want him to come here and be back up. I want him to come here and think, well, I can take Saka's place, as deluded as that is,
He
or I can
definitely
play on
has
the left.
the confidence. Like, he's not
He's
a player
definitely
that
confident.
lacks confidence. Like, that's one thing I will say about him is that he has the mentality of the type of player that can become something special. I just don't know that the talent level is up there. And again, going into the window, I felt like we needed two level raisers. We needed to get the
Exactly.
left-hand side much closer to the right. And I'm not quite sure that that's what we've done with this signing. I think, again, it just makes us different. It doesn't necessarily make us better, which is kind of what we've done in multiple windows since 22-23. Is Havertz makes us different, but does he necessarily give us that jump up that we necessarily need? We're just different. We're just shape shifting, but we're not actually lifting the level, and it's disappointing. But you know,
Now, in the ideal world, it's not going to happen. But you
mm,
sign Rodrygo or you sign all of these
yeah,
guys, and Madueke is in the mix. For me, we'll get on to Eze, but I more want Eze a lot more now with Madueke signing. Nothing to do with Madueke. It's just above all, I don't think it's fair to you because you're not just going to wave a magic wand and you're going to be amazing. The bigger thing with Madueke is consistency. If you go through 3-4 games amazing, and then the next 3-4 games you're a bit shaky, there's issues.
mhm,
And also with Madueke, I don't know if the gaffer's going to say, you know, first 10 games of the season, you're going to start, or it's going to be like what we see with Martinelli and Trossard in that whichever one is less stinky, they're the one that's going to kind of play. So I don't feel it's fair to put that on Madueke because I know fans eat up all that potential stuff. I'm not saying the man's not got potential, but again, if you want to learn how to be a speed racer or F1 or whatever, Lewis Hamilton, you have to literally stall your car a couple of times. You have to learn how to drive. That's the thing with Madueke under the guise of us wanting to get over the line. That's where my issues come from. I actually believe he's the starter because I refuse to believe
same.
he's a backup. It's got to work. Like there's no thingies behind it. Now you need to get me Eze because obviously Arsenal fans, they're doing that thing of, oh yeah, he's not gonna, he's not really a left winger. I hear that. I'm on him playing as a 10, playing as an 8,
Yeah.
actually deputizing for Saka or competing with Saka, maybe as a false 9. But if we just assume that Eze is only a left winger and can't play in them roles, he might flop. But you can see you're better than Martinelli, you're better than Madueke, you're better than all of them off the left.
Mhm.
Surely.
It's like Arteta, I just don't believe in your projects. So you need to show, and that's the thing. It's two things need to come together at once. It's his talent level needs to be good enough where it can be honed into something else, into something better. But equally,
Exactly.
it's like Arteta needs to be able to get that out of him. And I'm not sure that I believe that both of those things can come together at once while we need to be winning things. And that's where the risk comes in. I just think Arsenal needs to simplify things so much more and say, we need a left wing and a striker. So let's go get a left wing and a striker. This is just a side mission that we don't need and puts a lot of pressure on the player. To be honest, he's already under it. He's going to be the first bad touch. They're going to be on
Some
him.
of it's so harsh to him as well, man. That's
Yeah.
that's the thing. I think Arsenal fans will support you, but there is an element of it's a witch hunt, and I think people got to remember at the end of the day, this 23-year-old, whether he's good or not, has taken the jump to sign for Arsenal. Where quite frankly, we're tired of signing players from Chelsea
Mm.
and everything everybody said and acknowledges at this point. The biggest annoyance with the Madueke sign is nothing to do with him. It's just that if this cripples your ability, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe you don't sign Rodrygo or Eze for reasons irrelevant from the 50 million, but we will think about that. You had 50 million that you spent on Madueke. Could you have spent others elsewhere? Now, I know people will point to, Alanga and Kudus and say we should have spent money. In fact, that's a question for you as well. Like, was we better off buying Mohamed Kudus? I know the numbers are quite similar because he had a poor season at West Ham, but would we be better off of buying Kudus instead of Madueke?
I think this is I'm not sure that I believe that Kudus is so above the level of players that have gone for that same price point. I think that's price point of like the only player that's going for more than that is like Mbomo, and he deserves that because he scored 20 goals. Everybody else that's in that kind of like 50 to 60 range is more of like players that they're good, but they're not great. They have potential, but maybe they need some zhuzhing up. I think he's in that category, Kudus. So it's not that I think that he's just so much better than Madueke. I just think that it would have just been easier to get behind the signing, which inevitably makes it easier for the player to bet in. I would have wanted Kudus just for the simple fact that we're not giving a rival money and it's just a clean signing. There's no narratives around it or anything. But do I think he's like light years ahead? I think he's also an inconsistent, kind of frustrating player at times too, but he's probably had higher peaks than Noni has, so there's that. But I did want Kudus instead, but I would have wanted almost anybody than Noni because I just don't like the narrative and the connection. It's just too much for me. Maybe, and I know some people are like, well, that's just so immature, but I'm honest about my shit. I'm too immature to not care where he came from. So, I don't know what to tell you.
For me, it's just a potential thing.
Yeah, it's for you. It's just a potential.
It's nothing even personal with Madueke, and I'm a hypocrite because I probably love the young players the most, and Martinelli, for example, players that have shown me a glimpse, but not exactly done it on a consistent basis. I ride with them. That's why I kind of gravitate towards Madueke. I just feel at where we're at now. Do your potential thing with Miles Lewis-Skelly and Wanyeri. Just get me some attackers I kind of know what I'm getting from, really and truly. I don't really want the potential. It just comes down to that. Like, as much as I don't think Madueke is terrible, there's too much squint in my eye doing ifs and buts. Like, someone in the comments, you're not wrong, but man are talking to me about XG and all of these things. I've even given myself the copium of, I remember, I don't even know if Arteta was telling the truth or not, but he spoke about Chelsea being one of the best attacking / counter-attacking teams. So I can see where Madueke pulls into that. But then at the same time, unless the tactics significantly improve, we're not known as one of the best counter-attacking teams because we don't move the ball quick enough. Yeah. But and what makes me even more harsh on this is I don't believe that we stumbled in the summer and thought, let's buy Madueke. I don't believe that we was offered Madueke. I genuinely think we went into the summer trying to sign him. So you must know in your head what you can do with this guy, innit, really? So just make it happen. It is lazy scouting, like to the point where I don't know, man. Do you think there's something dodgy going on between the higher powers that be at Arsenal and Chelsea? Because it's too much generally.
I don't know if I feel like it's dodgy dealings. I think what it is Chelsea have a model of just buying a bunch of players and they don't really care if they need to sell them because they know there'll always be a market to sell them because their reputation in the market is a lot higher than ours. Like when we look at our reputation, nobody's ever checking for our players. We're going to really struggle to sell people like Zinchenko and Trossard. And that shouldn't be the case, but that's just what it is, where Chelsea buy these young players that people are going to be interested in, and then they offer good terms. And so I think we're like maybe what you would consider dodgy is actually just the fact that Chelsea will allow Arsenal to only have to pay £500,000 up front. So that allows us to have more money available, where if you go to Lyon, who are in financial ruin, and ask them for Malik Fofana, they're going to say, we want the whole shit up front. We want almost all of it up front.
We've got bills to pay.
Need it. Exactly. You go to West Ham for Kudus, they're going to want almost all of it up front. And so I don't necessarily feel like it's dodgy. I just think that that's their model. Their model is to have all these players and then be able to flip them, because they're basically flipping Nani for like 29 billion or something like that.
They've had for 18 months, 2 years, made a sizable profit.
100%. So and Arsenal are lazy and they use a data approach. And so they don't care what comes out of that. I think the only thing that they will steer away from is a Spurs player. But when it comes down to it, they'll put the little parameters in the computer, it'll spit out a couple of names, and it's even better if they come from Chelsea because one, they're prem proven, which Arsenal care about more than anything. And oh, by the way, they can penny pinch and pay in so many installments. And it's just an ugly relationship that's built based on those things. I actually don't think it's any more than that. Now, here's my thing as well. It's if you've gone to Chelsea and bought a player and you like to work with them because they give you the opportunity to push it in installments so you can have more money, then I'm 100% expecting another player to come in, because there's no reason to go for a lesser player or a problematic player to the fan base if you're just being cheap for cheap's sake. So you need to go out there and spend whatever money you're saving on another attacker. Period.
I'm with that.
I'm expecting somebody else to come in. If not, this is just not a good enough window.
You know how expectations are, they lead to disappointments. This is why I say I hope Eze comes in. For me, we'll get on to Rodrygo as we close out, but I'll focus my attentions on Eze. But boy, I don't know. What do you make of this comment? Has the history of underachievement not winning anything for 5 years now created an inferiority complex in our fan base? And are we okay with signing average players trying to justify? I personally think it's created an imbalance with fans. I think there's fans that Arsenal could shit in their hands and clap. They'll tell them that's amazing. I think there's fans that, and I'm not saying we shouldn't win stuff, but they think we're Bayern Munich and they're just moving mad. So I think it's a bit of both personally. But yeah, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I think shout out Valeria as well, because I met Valeria on my call-in and I love her. But I think what the underachievement has done is it's made Arsenal fans forget what actually is needed for us to win titles and to win Champions League. We've never won a Champions League before, you know what I mean, to get onto the biggest stages and all that kind of stuff. And so we're accepting this mediocrity, and because we've gotten closer to where we want to be, we feel like we've hit where we, now we're like, okay, well, we've made it, but we actually still nowhere near where we need to be to actually be back. And so I think it's just a lot of the more vocal fans and the most, I don't want to call them manipulative, but the most like mouthpieces out there like to spew this propaganda about our data and what we're doing and we're improving, because they grew up in the Emirates era. So they have no idea what it takes. But the older people, we're looking at it and we're like, when we were winning, we had Thierry Henry in our team, a top 1% player. He's a Wirtz player, top 1% type of player. You had Vieira in midfield. You had a top defense. You had this and that. And you had a world-class manager. So, and that's not changed. The formula to winning the Premier League has not changed. You need world-class players in your team. You need to have a world-class manager. But they don't know, so they're just talking about data and the finances and being the most, financially sound team and all this. And it's like, I don't want to hear that. We're not where we need to be. So I think the underachievement, what it has done is it's made people almost try to guess where we need to be and stuff like that. And they're not really they don't have the facts of how we're supposed to get there because they've never seen it before. And so that comes with the accepting Kai Havertz as a good player, when in reality, a lot of us think that he's actually just average and holding us back.
Just a calm player. I wouldn't even say he's holding us back. Like, I just think you're just calm, but we don't need to make out you're the Messiah and that you've done well, but we're not going to get out the hood with that.
It's the reason why there's Arsenal fans that would say, and I know we kind of spoke about like whether or not this player is overrated or not, but it's why they'll actually sit there on Beyonce's internet talking about how Rodrygo wouldn't make us better and he's average. But when we played them, what did he do? And it's
nitpick at gyokeres, but make out Sesko is the best thing since sliced bread. This is
it's like that's what underachievement does. We'll actually sit up there, and of course we had our day in the sun. We beat Real Madrid, but in the end of the day, they're winning stuff and we're not. So they still probably have better players than us. We beat them on, it's like Bournemouth beat us. Does that mean that their players are better than ours? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's the underachievement, it just makes, I just think that there's just too many super confident, talking all the time type of Arsenal fans that influence people that what we're doing is we're here already, and we're just not. We're not there yet. We still need we need to push more, you know?
Exactly. Like I always say this on my channel. Yeah, if you consider the last 3 years bordering on 4, or even you, if you want, you can say Mikel Arteta's whole tenure. When it's all said and done, we've done a lot of good things, but this is winning the Prem, right? We've
Mm.
come all this way and we're here now. We've flirted with it. We're doing that. Why are we acting now? We are closer to getting over the line, but it's not going to happen in the same premise of this. Look at all of the players that have fallen. So it's just natural that we need to stop putting squad players in first team regular roles. Before we finally get on to Rodrygo, big up BG. I can't leave my much questions out. Do you think there's a strategy to have two teams similar to Chelsea so that for the cup games, the second team will start at least in the early stages?
I mean, is that what we're doing? Building two teams?
I can't say we are.
Yeah, I don't necessarily feel like we are building two teams. I think we're still kind of dancing around wanting good squad depth, to be honest. So that's the one in, one out strategy tells me that that's not what they're really trying to do. But we should be trying to get close to a second team that could kind of win those early rounds pretty easily without stress. Yeah, so that's what we should be building towards. I don't think our second team is right now is bad, but you definitely need to bring in another player or two for me to really think that you're serious, and then keep our good players, move on Trossard and keep Martinelli. If it's the only case that you can bring in Rodrygo or another left wing, if you get rid of Martinelli, you're not trying to build two strong teams. You're just not.
You made a good point of that one in, one out. I mean, naturally, I can't sit here and say the Premier League and the champ shouldn't be Arsenal's priority, but I think that's where we're going. I think Arteta's kind of thrown the cups, quote unquote, since we won the FA Cup. League Cup, obviously, I want to win it, especially when you get to the semi-finals, but I don't think no one's going to kill him for that. I don't think we ain't got two teams in it. Like, we ain't got two teams. You'd imagine now with Norgard, with Kepa, Wanyeri minutes is there. Hopefully, Calafiori stays fit. I don't know for the Fabio Vieiras, the Zinchenko's, the Kivios, the Nelsons, anybody linked with moves that needs to go. If they're here, that's you lot's games, in it. Now, naturally, if we get to semis, you want to see a strong team, but I don't think we're going to be there. I do think we want improved squad depth, but I wouldn't say like two teams, if that makes sense. We've got another super chat. Hey, big up yourself, Antonormus. Yeah, I tried, my guy, but Arteta is a very good coach, but horrible at player profiling. It's only because of his coaching why he's able to reach the levels he has. He needs a David Dean type of DOF. Appreciate the super chat. That's probably what Berta is going to be. I wouldn't say it's horrible. I think in the attack is where I'm like, oh, Arteta is looking a bit smelly, because it's like you're bougie for on one hand, like you want Nico Williams and Rafinha and Rodrygo and this one and that one. And I don't think we've got the money necessarily to spend 100+ million on these players. And if we do, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot where you're spending 50 odd for Madueke, 65 on Kai and whatnot. I do think that's the area of the pitch I look at Arteta. I'm like, oh, because defense, I'm actually confident with you. You've shown me talent IDs there, spot on. Right. Midfield, there's been some duds, but Reiss is a world-class 6 and a very good 8. Odegaard's form was crap, but he's done his thing. Zubamendi, I'm really bullish. Obviously, Partey when he was here kind of worked. Beyond that, it's been a bit. I know you've got Havertz and Marino up front. It's who have you really brought in that's done levels? Really, it'd be Trossard's probably been the best recruitment. Martinelli and Saka were here already, as was Smith Rowe, which you got a tune out of. But yeah, where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I just think that Arteta is like, his coaching gets us to where we are, but whatever else is going on in his head keeps us getting to the next level. Exactly. And so depending on what side of this coin you sit on, some people will say, well, if we didn't have Arteta, we'd never get there. The reason why we're here is because of him. And I'm like, that's true, but he's also making key decisions that are keeping us from getting to the next level. Because I just feel like if you had a different manager in this position, they would never make some of these big decisions and not just improve certain it's just so obvious what we need, but we still keep skirting around it. And it's so weird. And I just can only think it's because he's comfortable, and there
is an element of comfortability here. Let's not be Because
Yeah, same
Madueke is
thing
not
with
going to be a madness after a year. Like, that's a couple of projects. So
yeah.
there is that.
You have these champagne dreams, of Isak's my number one option and Nico Williams, our number one option, Rodrygo. And then once we get beyond those, it's like if we didn't have Berta, and this is how I really think of it, is that because before Berta came in, the second option behind Sesko was not Gyökeres, it's Ollie Watkins. After Sesko, it's Ollie Watkins. If this summer had played out without Berta and with Edu, we would be getting Ollie Watkins. And that's no shade to him, but it's just the next option after the number one option is usually just so underwhelming or a project. Instead of, because we lost Xhaka, they wanted Mount, and then Kai Havertz was on the market, and then we pivoted over there, which is so weird. You just needed to get a Granit Xhaka replacement, but you went in a different direction. You just need a left wing, but you're bringing in Madueke. It's like we're constantly trying to get close, and then once we get close, we untangle everything and just start again. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is with Macau and the club, but it's frustrating, and I am worried.
I gotta ask you,
Concerned.
Rodrygo stuff, man. Rodrygo, apparently they won't sell him for cheap. Sources close to the deal say it's not impossible, but it's looking like it's closed. There are rumors equally that say Arsenal are still on the hunt. Some say we've closed the door. Liverpool have joined the race. Is there any hope from you with Rodrygo signing?
No, because I just think
Yeah.
I think we're at the stage now where once they start saying we need to sell to buy, you can really just kind of count out big moves from here. And this is why I'm really worried about the Eze thing. I'm really not that worried about the Rodrygo thing anymore, because it's like that was kind of like a dream anyway. If Arsenal went out and got Rodrygo, I'd be incredibly like, oh my, I can't believe they've done that. That's not how we operate. But this is what I'm more concerned about now is we know Chelsea have the money for the release clause. We know
And
that.
more favorable terms as well if they don't pay the release clause.
This is what I'm saying. Exactly. Like if they say, well, we're going to play the release clause and we want to do it next week, but Arsenal are saying that they still need to sell, or do you want this player? We're not getting him, and he's not going to stay at Crystal Palace just because he can't go to Arsenal. So there's a very real
He's an
possibility.
Arsenal fan, Jess. He grew up supporting us, some would say.
Well, there's tons of Arsenal fans that play for other clubs, and we know that, so it's really disappointing because now that they've entered the race, it is very, like even this like little rumor here, it's like that's not going to happen, is it? We need the money. We need to either be able to play it in those 3 installments or all up front. And this is
Exactly.
where having better owners would come into play, because I think better owners make sure you have that money available. And we just whatever we would have used next summer, we just push it off, and we're like, okay, cool, we'll just make it happen. But Andrea Berta is going to have to move heaven and earth to try to get this deal done. And I know they want to do it, but they might fall short just because Arteta decided he really wanted Madueke. And that's unfortunate. And we've been saying this, like Sky Sports saying Eze is a primary target. They know they can. We've been hearing that for 2 weeks now. Gonna make an approach, know about the release clause. He wants to come, all that kind of stuff. And the longer you wait, the more likely it is that other teams will come in, because, things change in the market. And the last thing you need is a Premier League club with more money than you coming in for a player that you may have to rob Peter to pay Paul to buy. So they've set themselves up so badly here. And we know Chelsea are looking for a player like this because they want Morgan Rogers, but Eze is the natural pivot away from that. If you want to get somebody, he's easy to get for them. The only thing we have is that he wants to come to us right now, but things can change.
And the difference with Eze as well, yeah, like big up Madueke. I'm not trying to make it about him. Big up Kai Havertz and anyone that's kind of blurred their lines and we're like, oh, yeah. And I'll say the exception is Ryle. I hear all of that, what people are saying. With Eze, no one ain't telling me about XG. I ain't seen, when we say the name Eze, I ain't heard about XG, box crashing, this, that. I'm not squinting eyes, and I'm not being disrespectful to Madueke. You can just see Eze is a good player, improves us, keep it moving. No one was doing that around Reiss. No one's doing that around Gyokeres. No one's doing that around certain players. Like, why can't we just be honest that we need proven players? And for me, there's more of a need to get Eze with Madueke so that we have the best of both worlds. If Madueke locks down the left-hand side, takes someone off, take Saka's spot off the right, great. But if he's struggling, you've got Eze. Or if Eze's starting, Madueke comes in. They both can bring something. And I think that's the annoying thing in that you're signing Zubamendi, you're signing gyokeres. Obviously, you're getting a couple of squad players, and then you're going for what could end up being an expensive gamble, because the best thing is that we get to see Madueke's potential and the upside and everything else. The worst is he's going to be exactly like Martinelli, exactly like Trossard, where, yeah, you lot could be squad players, but we don't know what we're going to get across a 38-game season. You're going to be the best player on the pitch for the first 5 games, the second 5 games, it could be crazy. So when Arteta said you usually win the league with 89 points, he wasn't lying. He wasn't lying, but look at the squad. How do you get 89 points, 90 odd points? We knew that. We don't need Arteta to tell us that. We know that with Liverpool, you go and get a striker, you might not have 14 draws, you might have 7. There's different conversations. Let's cut the bullshit. Arteta's done a lot of good things, but no man is above criticism. He has shot himself in the foot several times. And as a club, we need to learn our lessons. But I think with what you're saying around Eze, it's a case of outgoings, man. Like, I don't believe the swap deal thing. Reiss Nelson's being linked with a loan to Fulham. That ain't helping us. You need to go permanently unless there's an obligation.
You need the money, and we're not good at selling. Nobody's really knocking down our door for any of our players. Most of our players are on a list of other players that other teams, if they want to buy them, it's gonna be well down the list. If Bayern are very desperate to get Luis Diaz, they're going to get Luis Diaz, so they're not going to buy Martinelli or Trossard. Like, if Saudi doesn't come in for Trossard, he's going to stay. It's so frustrating how we can't move players on, but we should not have to move players on to bring in a primary target. We should.
I don't even think it's because of that. I just think the club naturally last season, I think we were all like, if we put ourselves back 12 months ago, we missed out on the league via a point or whatever it was to City. We went into the market. Yeah, if we got this, that, the other, we're going to be lit. Basically, everything we were hoping for and still hoping for this summer. We hope we did it last year. And I don't doubt that. But then when you look at the fact that, Arteta went for Marino and Calafiori, clearly we didn't have the budget. I do think there was an element of selling players and bringing money in, shown with Ramsdale and Nketiah and Smith Rowe. Obviously, there was reasons beyond money. And I think naturally that's still going to be the case. Berta, I said it earlier, I think Berta's got a great record with Atletico Madrid. He's clearly shown in several ways already he's better than Edu. But naturally, his banking background, that had to have got the Cronkies going, if I'm honest with you. That is going to help us. We've ripped out a couple deals. We're probably going to shed some wages off. I don't think we need to sell. I just think naturally we're going to do that. I think assuming Gyokeres comes in, we're going to do the bulk of our business. We're going to stop for a sec, focus on outgoing.
Yet, if we don't need to sell,
I wish I knew. I wish I knew.
Sense that we've been preparing to approach.
But just we've heard for years now, oh my God, like the powder's dry. We've got no FFP issues. I don't think we've got FFP issues. We're the best run, like statistically, one of the best, if not the best run club in the world, essentially, in some metrics. I can't accept that from them.
And they're like, oh, well, now they need to start with outgoings to bring other people in. It's the same thing every window. Once we get to this point where we really need this like special attacking player, somebody with X factor, somebody that's going to lift our levels, it's just stopping. It's just stopping. So it just frustrates me so much because you could have got this done first. We could have sold things to get mascara after. We could, it's just, they don't care about improving the attack as much as they should, because, well, Marino is serviceable, Havertz is serviceable, they're just not desperate enough for it. I'm looking at everybody else's attack and I'm like, I don't want to do the grass is always greener, but I don't think our attack stacks up against most of the other attacks in the top. I think there's even an argument about Mbomo and Cunha coming in, and they're just a striker away. Is Gyokeres, Saka, and Madueke, is that actually better? Like, they're not serious, man. It's just so clear to me, man.
Would you make it a Palhinha links?
I think that was just some delayed report from before we got Norgard. I think, these types of outlets, they had this information or they're getting it late. and they're putting out there because they know they're going to get clicks, because they know Arsenal fans, if they hear about another DM, they're going to lose their heads. So, but I actually read the article and it said before, earlier on in the window, that was probably pre-Norgard, and whatever because we ended up paying way less, and maybe it just came down to we just preferred the Premier League proven. Well, he's actually Premier League proven, but like, cheaper option, because he was going to cost more. So
you can't disagree with that. What do you make of this final question before we head over to your platform? Many things. Sorry, where is the question? Big up BG, but there was a question. I've actually had an L there. There was a question about Eze. Here we go. I can blame the owner. I think they mean I can't blame the owners no more. We spent 80 million on signings we didn't need last season. Why didn't we get a striker then? We spent 52 now on a bum. I'm gonna say Madueke. I don't think he's a bum. Let's be respectful. Why not put it on Eze?
Yeah, I just think that there's two different conversations. Are the Cronkies ambitious? And I would say no, they're not. They're ambitious to a certain level, but really ambitious owners,
they're not ambitious to win stuff.
They're not, to me, they're not that ambitious. But have they not given us enough money to get to where we want to be? I think if we had made different decisions throughout the last 3 summer windows, we would be a lot closer to where we want to be. There's never any guarantees, right? But I think one of the biggest, problems that we have is this obsession with giving the manager exactly what he wants, and not just saying, you need a striker, we're going to get you a striker, we're going to get another number 10 because we need creativity. It's like they give him so much rope and nothing ever changes, so we have wasted a lot of money in these last couple of years. And I think the telltale sign of that is that we're still spending money on the same positions, but we've still not addressed the attack. We are still buying defenders. We're still buying DMs. We're still buying goalkeepers. And so every dollar adds up. And I feel like when you look down the line, you have to ask yourself, how many of these players have actually made us better? And how many of them have just made us different or added different qualities? And is that what we needed at that time? As time has gone on, beyond the Gabriel Jesus Zinchenko window, there's been quite a few signings that I felt different, but not necessarily better. So there's two different conversations. The Cronkies are not ambitious enough, and I'm never going to give them this, they've done enough. They have not done enough. But
it's redundant to just, obviously, they can leave, people can say what they want to do, but I just feel, piggybanking off what that comment said and what you said, I think it's a bit redundant to just keep saying, it's all the Cronkies, it's the Cronkies, because I'm not backing the Cronkies. But post Arsene Wenger, Emery never got this. Since they've taken over in 2019, you've seen what we spent on Kai Havertz. You've seen what we've done in terms of ripping up deals. He's got to sign Declan Rice. They plucked him when he was nobody, respectfully, but being, an extension of Pep Guardiola's coaching staff. They backed him when a lot of people have wanted him sacked, and in other situations he could have. He's won any sort of player power, rightly or wrongly. So they could sit there and say, quite frankly, how dare you, DG, really? Because I don't think they want to win, but they've clearly put people in practice. And we've done a lot of good things with signings, but we've not done enough, and we have made some else. So indirectly, it comes from the owner, but it's boring to just say they're the reason we ain't won the league, because we've got second 3 times in a row, to the point where to the last day, we've shown improvement in the Champions League. Mikel Arteta has signed a contract extension. So I'm not even saying he likes the Cronkies, but he must believe he can thrive within this context. And I'll even throw that to Berta, which is why, for me, everyone's in this together. We win, everyone gets praised. We lose or this continues, we keep having conversations like we are having right now, Jess. But the good thing is, people, we're heading over to Jess's channel right now to continue kind of the same, but different, but the same chat, man. Where can people find you, even though you're in the title of the YouTube video?
Yeah, She Knows Arsenal. Click the link on the title, or just put She Knows Arsenal in the YouTube bar or whatever, and you'll find me there.
Yeah, so that's where we're going, literally right now, people. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe. I'm sure you'll have a lot to say. Let us know in the comments, and we'll catch you over on Jess's channel. We're going there right now.
Like